My name is Angela Capeles. I'm so happy to be here. Thank you for the invite. And I'm here to tell you, yes, and we do need to be sustainable and have the business strategy, but that's not the only thing that you need. If you're not the face of your business, then we need to do some work so that we can help you build trust, stand out, and scale. This is just a disclaimer that I typically have that this is exclusively for you to use and review, not for you to distribute, because it's my intellectual property. So if you have not met me before, I'm a proud Puerto Rican, born and raised. Pennsylvania has been my second home since 2015, so I split my time in between the two. I consider myself black belt in salsa dancing with my girl Lauren here. So if you see me out, please ask me for a dance. I'm very vocal about equity work. So a lot of the work that I do through branding and marketing embeds our community at the center of all of the experiences. I'm also a professor at Penn State and my own academy for the agency, and I'm obsessed with branding. So if you see me or want to talk to me about branding, I'm your girl. I have ambitious goal for this 10 to 15 minutes, so I'm going to try my best to run through all of those so that you can get all of these best parts. And if you want access to the presentation, send me an email. I'll send it over to you. So the first thing is I want you to be able to understand the importance of branding and how that's going to help your business grow, build trust with the audiences that you want to connect and stand out. Then I want you to be able to identify your values and the things that make you unique so that you can position yourself stronger in such a saturated market. And then we're going to talk about a couple of digital strategies that you can implement through social media storytelling so that you can leave here with action items that I will see if you implement. Before we get started, I wanted to talk about branding and what it is. Essentially, what a brand is all of those things that you mentioned and more. It's a profound manifestation of yourself, of your story, of the services that you want to sell, of the problems that you're trying to solve. So think about all of the things that make you you. That is essentially a brand. And in order for a personal or professional brand to be able to grow, it has to be rooted in your history, in your story, your context, everything that you have been through. And in order for a brand to be authentic and for you to actually stand out against your competitors, it has to reflect your essence. So I wish I could tell you that it's a super intense scientific method that you have to follow, but creating a strong brand really has to be all about you. And personal branding is not about being an influencer. I know that's a super hot topic right now. All of you are already influencers in a different way. So having a strong brand is about the power that you have and being intentional with your mission and your why. What we're going to be focusing on today is making sure that you understand and own your story so that that can drive the growth for your business. I love this quote about Jeff Bezos, not because I agree with everything that he does, but because I do think that this statement really encompasses everything that all of you said about branding. You know, your brand is what people say about you when you leave the room. That's the best definition that you can find, and that's exactly what I want you to do right after today. A lot of you, I've already seen your work through social media, so keep doing that. If you haven't been as active, this is your PSA to take it more seriously. So, what should my brand be if I already know that it includes all of those things that I mentioned? And I'm going to give you kind of like my secret formula that it's not so secret anymore. But the best way for you to own your brand and understand what should it be, because I like all of these things and I want to do all of those things. A lot of people say you should only do one thing. I'm here to tell you you can do all of it as long as you have the right strategy to guide that process and that journey. So the first thing in your formula, sorry, I forgot the X, is you. Everything that is important about you, your story, your history, your underlying identities, all of those elements that make you, in my case, Angela Capeles. The second thing is your strengths, your opportunities, things that you are really good at, things that you suck at. All of those things are going to help you start to tailor your brand, and then you're going to combine that with your secret sauce, el sazón, that thing that makes you so special. Maybe it's your laugh, maybe it's your phrase, maybe it's how you dress. All of those things, when you combine them, they actually make what your brand should look like. And I know that feels like it's a lot. And how does that really translate into the work that we do for our own brand? And I'm here to tell you in 6 different steps how we can do that. So when we're thinking about branding, especially for your personal brand so that you can bring visibility to your business, you need to really focus on the impact that you want to make. I think Melissa was talking about your why and how, sustainability starts before that. And I'm here to tell you that we need to be front and center of our business. A lot of people say, I don't want to be front and center, I just want to focus on selling my service, but if I cannot connect with you, if I don't see you, I cannot trust you enough to be in business with you. So I'm here to tell you, we need visibility. It's not vanity, it's a necessity for your business, and you are the only person that can sell your business. No one else is going to understand it in the same way. You might have buy-in from some employees and team members and partners, but it's not the same as you are the founder. So a couple of things that I want to mention before I moved into each one of the steps is that we're not here to randomly perform. I know that when we're doing video content, we think like it could be performative. That's not the goal for your personal brand. The goal for your personal brand is to connect. And today it's evident that all of you are all about community. So that's the same thing that I want you to translate into your personal brand through digital means. Another thing that I wanted to mention, if you don't take anything else from this presentation, is that make sure that everything that you do through your personal brand has the 3 C's. Clarity, consistency, and connection. We need to understand who you are, what you do, and with whom. We need to understand who we want to connect with, and we need to be consistent, because if we're not consistent, then people forget about everything that you're doing. So like I said, you cannot build trust with people if they do not see you in any of the spaces that you should be present. So before we start working on our personal brand, like I said, we need to understand who we are, our story. I'm Puerto Rican, I'm Latina, I was born in Puerto Rico, I moved to PA. All of those things are step 1 for me. Once I start going through that process, it could feel a little bit like therapy. It's going to be able to help you identify what are some patterns that I'm seeing here. Step 2, discover what makes you unique. What are the things that I'm seeing consistently in my life, in my timeline? I love dancing, I love arts, I love languages, I love traveling, I love branding, I love teaching. Like all of those things make me, and I start to identify, okay, I'm seeing a pattern here. Maybe this is my thing, maybe this is my brand. Once I have clarity into what are the things that I want to prioritize and be known for, I need to start thinking about the customer experience that we were talking about. All about how do we want people to feel with us? Do we want them to feel welcomed? Because maybe that's going to impact the colors that will resonate with my brand. If I want to feel more authoritative, maybe I should use more bold colors. So think about your story, the things that are important to you, and then how do we want people to feel? That's going to impact the whole creative landscape and vision for your brand. Once we're clear on that so that we can have a clear perception for our brand and positioning, we move into defining our ideal clients. I know who I am. I know how I want to be perceived. I know my core areas. Now, who do I want to serve? Who am I here to help? What is the problem that I'm trying to solve? So all of those different elements are going to start telling me, okay, maybe my niche is to work with small to mid-sized businesses, or maybe entrepreneurs, or maybe just women-owned businesses. So think about who you really want to work with. A lot of the mistakes that we see a lot of our clients make is that, like, I want to serve everyone because I think I'm going to be able to get all the business. And that's going to literally make it harder for you to get the right business. So think about who you want to work with and why, and make sure that you're consistent. And then one thing that I mentioned a couple of minutes earlier is if you're not clear about your audience or what you do, people are going to notice, and then there's going to be a disconnect, and we don't want that. Once we know that, then we move into choosing the right platforms. Just because we have 20-something thousand platforms doesn't mean that we need to be on all of them. Not all of your clients will be hanging out in all of those platforms. We've had clients that say to us, oh, I want to be on TikTok and Threads and all of this. And I'm like, honey, your clients are not on TikTok. So you can use all of that money and energy and excitement into the right platform so that we can have higher conversion. So think about who I want to serve and which ones are the right platforms for me. And then create content and share with your community, which is something that all of you are already doing. Very, very important for us to do that. So once you do all of that, then I urge you to be consistent. I'm not sure how many times a week each one of you are posting right now, but as a homework, I would love to see at least 2 to 3 times a week consistently for a few months. And then when you feel ready and graduate, let's say in 6 months, then we can increase another day and then another day until you can have that kind of like under control. I don't want you to post 7 days a week for 2 weeks and then you drop the ball. I'd rather post once a week, but consistent every week, than do a lot and then nothing. So pick a rhythm that works for you. Forget about the noise and what everyone says. If you don't post a story every day, forget about all that crap. Think about what works for you and make it stick. This is another homework for you, the professor in me, I'm sorry. The best way for all of you to start to identify what is your brand story, what is your statement. Sometimes people are like, I feel like I know what I want to do, but it's hard for me to clearly state that. This is a very easy way in which you can do that. So I'm giving you a little bit of help. You're going to start filling out I am, what you do, and I help your ideal audience with the problem that you're solving through the solution that you offer, and because what? Your unique lens, your why. So you can say, I am a branding and marketing strategist, and I help small to mid-sized businesses with intentional branding and marketing strategies through creative services like blah, 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 because I believe that everyone should own their brand and feel competitive and confident about how they show up online. I don't know, something like that. So think about how can you be overly specific so that you can get clarity on who you are, what you want to do, and why. And then you're welcome. This will help you with your elevator pitch when you're having conversations and networking. So once we know all of that information, why branding is important for me and my business, how can I start to uncover my brand? And the next step would be to start identifying those patterns that I mentioned. So if I'm noticing that I'm really good at branding and marketing and design and teaching and traveling, then that already is telling me core categories in which my story should focus when I'm doing content online. So that's what a lot of people call content pillars, just those big categories that if it doesn't fit into any of those, it's off brand for me to do it, so we're just not going to waste time on that. The easiest way for us to do that, this is supposed to be a calendar, and each different bucket has a different color. And ideally what I was trying to illustrate to all of you is that each content pillar would be a different color, so that you can start to visualize if my content pillars for my personal brand is branding, marketing, the professor, the entrepreneur, all of those things, each one of those content pillars or categories would have a different color. So maybe Monday I post about myself, maybe Wednesday I post about being a professor, maybe Friday I post about marketing, and then I keep that rotation. Once I'm done with those, I start over again and again and again. Why do we do that? So that we can slowly start to educate and train our audience on who we are, what we do, and how can you connect with us. So what we want to do is educate our audience, make sure that they think about us as a thought leader, and then make it easier on ourselves to know what we're going to post. Because sometimes we're like, oh my gosh, I have so much content, I don't even know what to post. I did this already, I don't want to repeat it. So if you have a strategy in place and a structure, we just rotate, we start again. That doesn't mean that I cannot break that structure if I want to do a series of just one theme. I can absolutely do that. But it should help you guide that conversation. Okay, so now that we know who we are, what we do, how to create our story and our brand, how can we start thinking about that in terms of content pillars for social media strategy, I want to quickly walk you through how can we tell that story through social media. There are so many different frameworks and ways in which you can do this. The easiest way for me to teach our clients, our team, and our students is in a very simple way. We always want to start with a hook, something that is going to make people stop scrolling all of this other content and just stop and see Angela's content. And that could look like picking interest, triggering an emotion, tagging someone, whatever you think is going to get people stop and consume your content. Then we go with content with value, 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 value. If I could add that 20 times, I would. That just means if we're not giving value to our community, we just wasted their time and hours. So think about how can we add value, resources, information, tips, whatever you think is going to add value to your community. And then we always close with a CTA, call to action. If we're making people stop and read, and we did not ask them to do anything, we just wasted engagement for no reason. So think about what action do you want them to take out of this, and only pick one action. I see a lot of our clients and people having 3 different call to actions: give, like, comment, share this, repurpose, too many things. I'm not going to do any of those. So pick one and make sure that your story follows a little bit of that order so that they can understand, oh, this is what you gave me here. This is what I can do. I can do that. And then another tip for all of you, since a lot of you are working on creating content for yourselves and your businesses, if you don't have a lot of ideas about what should my content look like, the scale method, it's pretty straightforward, and it's something that we recommend people to use so that you can have a variety of content. So the first one is storytelling. People love to hear stories. I mean, we tell stories all the day, every day, all day with our friends, our family members, our partners. So how can we help our community to connect with us through content that prioritizes stories, but in an intentional way? The other one would be controversial. That's something that will help you spike engagements and have content that is more relatable so that you can hook people with what's controversial, and then you actually dive into the topic of what you want to do. So that's a great way to help people just quick clickbait. The other one would be actionable content. So if you follow this and this and this, you're going to guarantee that your business is set up for success, whatever. So think about how can you share quick wins for people to actually embody those and apply them for the business or whatever it is that you're sharing. And then learning, teach something new. People love learning new things that can make their lives easier. So how can you, through your content, actually guide people so that they keep coming back to you? So when we're thinking about your personal brand, now we're going to do kind of like a quick recap of everything that we just learned. We want to make sure that we prioritize you. Why are we talking about personal branding, and how is that related to the business or the business case for prioritizing your personal brand? Is that we want people to be aware that you exist. But if you're not on social media, if you're not creating content, if you're not prioritizing yourself as the face of the brand, you're not going to be able to transfer your audience from being aware that you exist to consideration of your services, to actually buying your services. And then what's that? After that, we want them to keep coming back to us and become loyal brand ambassadors. And then we want them to do the sales for you. We want them to talk about how great working with you is so that they can keep coming back, and you have essentially a secondary pipeline. So everything that I've just shared, it's so important, because if you are not front facing of your business, people don't know that you exist. They don't know what problems you solve, and then you're just waiting for clients to come to you. So best practices and recommendation from everything that I just shared. Find your voice and story. If you do not know that, if you're not clear, everything is going to be all over the place. People are not going to understand why you're here and how are you solving their needs. Audit your brand consistently. I do that at least quarterly. If that's too much for you, at least once or twice a year. Make sure that everything is okay. Am I going aligned with what I said was important for my brand? Yes or no? If not, do I want to evolve, or do I think that I stepped outside of what I really wanted to do? So always make sure that you check yourself for those. Be consistent all the time. If you're not consistent, again, people get confused about who you are, what you do. And if you're not consistent, then you're not showing up for yourself either, and you made a promise to yourself that you wanted to do this. Choose the right platforms. Please don't be everywhere if you don't need it. It's a lot of extra work for nothing, so make sure that you're very intentional with your time. Serve your community and add value. There's so many photographers, so many agencies, so many whatever. What makes you different is what's going to stand out. So make sure that you prioritize ways to serving, because the profit will follow, trust me. Learn and unlearn. We live in a world that everything changes so much. AI, technology, branding, design. If you're not willing to unlearn and do new things, then you're not going to be able to cut up ever. So make sure that you allow yourself to explore and play with new ideas. Collaborate, and remember that it's all about the experience. It's all about how you make people feel. They want to feel seen and acknowledged, and like you want to work with them. So make sure that through your content, you help them see that. So What I want to see from all of you over the next few weeks is more content, owning your story, and remember that if you're not present for your business through your personal brand, you're not going to be able to grow sustainably. That's it.
That's it.